Hi everyone. So in today's video, we're going to be going over the Bluebook Test 1, the math section. So that includes Math Module 1, Math Module 2A, which is the slightly easier one, and then Math Module 2B, which is supposed to be the harder one. And I'm going to walk you through how I do each problem and how the various ways you can tackle certain problems and what you can do for mastering this test and other ones like it. So we'll start with this, and I'm also making videos for each question with follow-up questions. So if you want to cover one specific question more, you can go to that. I haven't finished those yet, but they're coming out bit by bit, so you can subscribe and see them as they come out. And as always, if you have any questions on this or other stuff, put in the comments, let me know, and I'd be happy to help you with it. So let's get started and see how it goes. Okay, so which frequency table correctly represents the data listed? Okay, so we have this data listed. Don't know why I went all the way to the right, but that's how they had it on the test. So there's 4 4s, right? Let's start with this. I like to take it bit by bit rather than trying to take it all in and use the answer choices to help me. So there's 4 4s, so the number 4 has to have a frequency of 4. So this one works. This one works for that. But then this one has a number 4 frequency 16, which does not work. And then this one has this number 16, frequency of 4, which is probably how they got it by doing 4 times 4, which also doesn't work. So then we're between these two. Great. And now we look at the 8s, right? 3 8s. So we need the number 8, frequency 3. Okay, so this one works. But then number 3, frequency 8, does not work. And then we now know the answer is A, right? And you could check your work by doing the last one, 13, right? Number 13, frequency 2. And we are all set. Great. So that one's a nice intro to this section, right? If you have questions on that, I've made a video on it and you can watch to see how to use frequency tables more. And then let's do this one here. Okay, this is a classic algebra question. Which expression is equivalent to x squared plus 3x minus 40? Okay, so you have a plus sign and a minus sign. So you want a plus and minus, which they all have. And then you want the plus number to be bigger, the positive number to be bigger. So A has that. B does not have, or B has that as well. But then C doesn't have it, right? And D doesn't have it. So how I do this, right, if you're doing it without answer choices, is you set it up like this. X plus some value. We'll leave a blank for it. And then X minus some value. We'll leave a blank for that. And then we say, okay, what multiplies to 40 and adds up to 3, right? And we have 10 and 4 as options. You can use the answer just to help you. That has a difference of 6. 8 and 5, though, right, has a difference of 3, because you do 8 minus 5. And that equals 3. And the reason we're doing difference is because this was a minus, so we have a plus and a minus. So it's really the sum always. It's 8 minus negative 5, or 8 plus negative 5, which is positive 3. Okay. And I have a video on this already up, and we can go to the next one. Jay walks at a speed of 3 miles per hour and runs at a speed of 5 miles per hour. He walks for W hours and runs for R hours for a combined total of 14 miles. Which equation represents this situation? Okay. So J, we're going to split this up, right? This is a classic distance equals rate times time question, but it's a little confusing because there's 2 different rates and 2 different times. So W, right, let's find the distance for walking. So that'll be walking, I'll just call it walk, equals the 3 miles per hour, which is his rate, times W. And then his run, right? You know, I'm going to make this U look like a U and not like a A. So the run, right, is about 5 miles per hour. So that's about a 12-minute mile, right? And the 3 miles per hour is a 20-minute mile, which is about the rate I walk in the city. So then we have 5R. And then together they add up to 14 miles. So we're going to do 3W plus 5R equals 14, which is A, right? And let's just look at the answer choices. We should have looked at them before, but it's okay if we didn't. Here they're confusing the rate and the distance, right? They're flipping it. That's why it comes out as 1/3. They're saying it takes you 3 hours to do 1 mile, 5 hours to do 1 mile. And then here they get this 112 by doing 3 plus 5, which is 8 times 14, and that gets you 112. So that's sort of how they make these answer choices. But if you just do the workout, you'll see that it's A, nice and clean. There's another video for that one too, with follow-up questions if you want more practice. And if you want even more practice, you can always ask for more. Number 4, in triangle ABC, the measure of angle B is 52, and the measure of angle C is 17. What is measure of angle A? So there's a triangle. Usually when they tell me a shape and they don't draw it out for me, I like to draw it out for myself, just to picture it, right? Not always, and especially not on the actual, if I'm feeling crunched for time, but for this, I'll show you what they're doing, right? So angle B is 52, and angle A is 17, and then we're looking for this one, right? So we're going to do 52 plus 17 plus C equals 180, right? Because every triangle, no matter what, has 180 degrees total. And then you do 52 plus 17 is 69 plus C equals 180. And then you divide or subtract 69, and you get C equals 111, which is D, right? So C you would have put if you had added them and that's all you thought you had to do. For this question, I know I showed a good amount of work. What you really need to show is 69, the 180 minus 69, just to keep track of the numbers. That's all you maybe would want to have to write. If you can do the rest in your head, that's great. If you're not there yet, don't worry. That's what practice is for. You can get there. And that'll just save you time, give you more time for the harder questions. And we can go on to this one. So this is one where the math exists, but it's more conceptual than actually doing out numbers, right? There's actually not a single number on this question. So the graph represents the total charge in dollars by an electrician for X hours of work. The electrician charges a one-time fee plus an hourly rate. What is the best interpretation of the slope of the graph? Okay, so when you see one-time fee plus hourly rate, that's like a y equals mx plus b situation. All right, m is your rate or your slope, and then b is the one-time fee or your y-intercept. So we look here, right? This is their y-intercept, and then there's a slope. So the hourly rate is the m. So what is the best interpretation of the slope, right? M is slope, and that would get you A, right? Now, if this question feels a little confusing when you're doing it, you can look at the work and look at the answer choices, right? So you have to think one-time fee, that's not really a slope situation. That's just what you start off with. That's the y-intercept. The maximum amount the electrician charges, that doesn't even seem to really exist. It seems to be able to go up forever because they never say he has a max. And then the total amount would be the y, right? Which would be the hourly rate plus times the number of hours plus the original one-time fee. So then you're left with A. And that's how the answer choices can help you, right? You sort of eliminate the bad options and then you get left with the best one. Okay, and there's no video for this one yet, but it'll be up soon and you can find that when it comes out. Then we'll go to number 6. The table summarizes the distribution of color and shape for 100 tiles of equal area. If one of these tiles is selected at random, what is the probability of selecting a red tile? Okay, so they don't tell us the shape of the tiles, right? If they had told us that, we'd have to choose between the square and the pentagon. They just say any of the tiles. So the bottom is going to be 100. So it's out of the total 100. And then out of the total 100, how many are red, right? So you're going to do, there's 10. Well, they do the math for you. They tell you there's 30 total. So then you do 30 over 100. Let's get you 3 over 10. And you can put it in as 3/10, or you can do decimal and do 0.3, right? Okay, perfect. And if they did choose between one of the shapes, then you could work that out, but they didn't. So we can go on to the next one. Okay, so from a population of 50 people, 1,000 were chosen at random and surveyed about a proposed piece of legislation. Based on the survey, it is estimated that 35% of people in the population support the legislation, with an associated margin of error of 3%. Based on these results, which of the following is a plausible value for the total number of people in the population who support the legislation? Okay, so this one has a lot of numbers, right? You have 50,000, you have 1,000, you have 35%, and you have 3%. So the 1,000 actually doesn't help us. It doesn't get involved here. So it's just there to confuse you maybe. And then, so there's a margin of error of 3 and you're at base 35, right? So you're going to do 35. And this is where people get confused. Do they mean the range is a total of 3%, or is it 35 plus or minus? And when they say margin of error, it's plus or minus 3. So you're going to do 35 minus 3, 35 plus 3. So the range is between 32% and 38%. So you're going to do 0.32 times the total population of 50,000. And then you're going to do 0.38 times the total population of 50,000. Before we do that, we're going to look at the answer choices, right? And get an approximate feeling, right? So 32%, 30% of 50,000 is 15,000. So it should be above 15,000. So A and B are out, and then D is gone. So without even doing the math, I can tell you it's going to be C, right? But if you want to do the math, we can work it out, and you get 32.32 times 50,000 is going to get you 16,000. And then 0.38 times 50,000 is going to get you 19,000. So it's going to be any answer between 16,000 and 19,000 could have worked, and the only one that works is C. So again, you can use the answer choices to make the question faster and easier for yourself. On the SAT, it's a lot about using your mental resources when you need them and saving them when you don't. Okay, so now let's try this one. What is the positive solution to the given equation? Again, it's far to the right. I don't know why, but that's how they formatted it. So we're going to do, this is going to be, you're going to cross multiply here, right? And then you'll get 55 equals x squared plus 6x. And then you're going to subtract, and you'll get 0 equals x squared plus 6x minus 55. And then again, you factor, right? So here we don't have answer choices to help us. We'll just do it the old-fashioned way. You could graph on Desmos, but with this one, I like to do the factoring myself just to save time. So you have to multiply to negative 55. So one's going to be negative and one will be positive. And you have to have a difference of 6. And 55 is nice because there's not that many factors, so you don't have too many options. You have 55 and 1, you have 5 and 11. And if those didn't work, then it's not factorable, and you could use the calculator to graph. So we'll do, so it's a plus 6, so the bigger number has to be positive. So it's x plus 11, x minus 5, right? And then we have to say x minus 5 equals 0, so x equals 5. And then that's our answer, right? X equals 5, because they want the positive solution. The other one would give us x minus x equals negative 11. But x equaling negative 11 is not what we want because it's negative. Okay, so great. This one, people get thrown off if they miss the word positive, because they'll be like, well, there's 2 answers. How do I choose? Or they'll just choose randomly and get it wrong because they chose the negative. So a lot of math, right, is about reading carefully, processing that information, and then using the actual math that you know to solve it. An airplane descends from an altitude of 9,500 feet to 4,000 feet at a constant rate of 400 feet per minute. What type of function best models the relationship between the descending airplane's altitude and time? Okay, so there's some keywords here. Constant rate of 400 feet per minute, okay? So constant rate tells us linear. And then we have that it's descending, right? So that means it's going to be decreasing. So we're not going to have exponential, and we're not going to have increasing. We're going to have decreasing linear, okay? And you can just imagine it, right? If you graphed it out, it's at 9,500 feet, and then it's climbing down. Okay. So now we'll go on to number 10. If the given function g is graphed in the xy plane, where y equals g of x, what is the y-intercept of the graph? Okay, so remember y-intercept is when x equals 0. So we're going to plug in 0 for x and solve for it. 11 to the 1 over 12 to the 0. Okay, and then we know x is 0, so all the answer choices have that. But now we're going to do 11, anything to the 0 power, which is a beautiful thing to know and to keep in mind, is equal to 1. No matter what, if it's negative, no matter if it's a fraction, no matter what. So then it's 11 times 1, so it's 11. So the answer is 0 and 11, right? So if you had chosen 132, that would be because you did 11 times 12, which could happen if you did x is negative 1. This would happen if you took the whole thing to the 0 power and didn't multiply by 11. And this is if you added, right? Okay. Now we can go to this one. Okay, circles. Circles are always fun, you know. They can be a little tricky, but the tricks can be fun too. The circle shown has center O, circumference 144 pi, and diameters PR and QS. So that means they meet at the center, right? The length of arc PS is twice the length of arc PQ. What is the length of QR? Okay, so let's first focus on how SR and PQ are related. They're the same because they're vertical angles. So the same central angle will give you the same arc length. And then these two, SP and RQ, are going to be equal to each other. And then we have a relationship between them by being told that PS is twice as great as PQ. So we'll say SR. We will say SR equals PQ. And then we'll say SP equals RQ, right? And then SP well, that's PS, but it's the same thing. E is equal to 2PQ. So now we can make a formula from it, right? Let's say PQ plus SR plus PS plus RQR equals 144 pi. And then we're going to get everything can be substituted with PQ in it. So the first two will be PQ plus PQ again plus 2PQ plus 2PQ. equals 144 pi. So that is 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 plus 1 is 6 PQ. Okay. Y equals 144 pi. So then we're going to divide by 6. Okay, so then PQ divided by 6. PQ equals 144 divided by 6. Equals 24 pi. And then it's asking for QR, which remember was 2 PQ, so we're going to double it. 2 times 24 pi. You get 48 pi. And that is B. Okay, lovely. And this one, right, you could tell it's not going to be C or D because it's not going to be half the circle or more than half the circle. And then you just have left between you A and B, and you can work out the math the way I just did. Okay, great. Now let's try the next one. 12. A rectangle has a length of x units and a width of x minus 15 units. If the rectangle has an area of 76 square units, what is the value of x? Okay, great. So you're going to do here, remember, area of a rectangle is length times width. It's going to be x times x minus 15, right? And you'll get x squared minus 15x, and that equals the area, which is 76. Okay. And now you're going to move the 76 over to get a quadratic equation that's nice and clean. X squared minus 15x minus 76 equals 0. So you have to multiply to something that gets you negative 76, and it's a difference of 15. Okay, so 76 has factors of 76 and 1, 39 or 38 and 2, and 19 and 4. 19 and 4 luckily has a difference of 15. Here the negative number is going to be the bigger one because it's a negative 15. So we x minus 19, x plus 4 equals 0. Okay. And then it is asking for what is the value of the units x. So again, we have two answer choices, but when we're talking about dimensions and shapes, the answer always has to be positive, right? There's no negative length, at least not in this math. So we're going to do B. We don't have to worry about the negative 4. And how did we know that was B, right? Because we have to do x minus 19 equals 0. Whenever you factor, the solution is always the negative of the factor, the number that's in the factoring. Sometimes you have to work it out if there's like a 2x and divide, but you just solve it out like this, right? Okay, great. We're doing great here. And remember, if you know these answers and don't feel like they're that helpful, you can skip to the ones that you feel you need more work on. But I think it's good to go through the whole thing to see if there's some tricks to even in the ones you already got the answers for, and just to sort of refresh your memory. And it's just a nice break from doing the math yourself, but still working on the SAT. Okay, so this one is a great one where you don't actually have to do the math. Rosa opened a savings account at a bank. The table shows the exponential relationship between the time t in years since Rosa opened the account and the total amount n in dollars in the account. If Rosa made no additional deposits or withdrawals, which of the following equations best represents the relationship between t and n? Okay, so this is an exponential relationship. And that means compound interest, right? If you do compound, well, we'll go through it after. I'm going to do it the way I would do it on the test, and then I'll explain the fundamentals. So she starts at 604. Which of these, so when time is 0, right? Which of these will give you 604 when time is 0? Not this one. Not this one. And actually not this one either. So it actually already, we got C. And C makes sense because the principal is here. And then the interest rate of 4% of whatever amount we don't actually know is here, right? And it makes sense that it'll be smaller. It would be weird to have an interest rate of 604. That'd be incredible return on investment. So the fundamentals, right, is the amount of money you have in your account or whatever it is the principal times, are we doing just annually, right? Like this one seems to be doing, it'd be 1 plus interest rate, so R to the time, okay? And then if you're doing compounding quarterly, you would be divided by 4 here for the annual interest rate and multiply by 4 here. But that's for a different type of problem. And here you don't even have to work this out, right? You should be able to do this question. Hopefully you can do this one eventually without having to write things out and just looking at the answer choices and eliminating, right? If you work it out, you can find that it's going to be 0.4% interest, but if you are really doing it efficiently, you won't even have to do that step, and that'll save you time, save you a headache if you like make a little mistake and you're like, why is my answer on here? And now we'll do 14. At how many points do the graphs of the equations y equals x plus 20 and y equals 8x intersect in the xy plane? Okay. So quick refresher, right? For something to intersect, you have 2 graphs here, or 2 lines on one graph. So you have the graph. And then let's say x plus 20 is here, right? And then 8x is going much steeper and it's crossing the y-intercept, right? So they intersect once. If you want to have, for 2 linear equations, the answer choices possible are not D or C. It's either going to be A, 0, which happens when they're parallel, right? So this is going to be parallel lines never intersect in a plane, or B1, when they aren't parallel and they intersect, or you can have them be infinitely many when they're the same exact equation. And that's not an option here. So let's go to the next one. Great, so we have 15 now. At a school fair, students can win colored tokens that are worth a different number of points depending on the color. One student won G green tokens and R red tokens worth a total of 380 points. The given equation represents the situation. How many more points is a red token worth than a green token? Okay, so here we have the equation, and I want you to think back to the question we did earlier. I think it was number 3 with the walking and running, right? And we made 3W plus 5R equals 14. And this was the rate. So 5 is the rate of points. 45 is the rate of points. So to find the difference in their rates, right, their value is going to be 45 minus 5, and you get 40. And sometimes people try to solve for G, try to solve for R, but you can't really solve for them because it's one equation, one thing, and it's not even asking for the G and the R because those are the number of tokens, not their value, right? Okay, so this is a good one to take a breath when you, after you read it, and think, what is it asking? What is it giving me? And not try to rush through and actually do math because there's not that much math to do. The number of bacteria in a liquid medium doubles every day. Okay. There are 44,000 bacteria in the liquid medium at the start of an observation, which represents the number of bacteria Y in the liquid medium T days after the start of the observation. Okay, so this is like the one we did earlier, right? It's just like the one with the balance, but we don't have a chart here. We're just given that it doubles. So let's look at this. this grows incredibly large, right? And it starts at half. We want it to start at 44,000, so that doesn't work. This one doubles as the 2, but that's not where we want the 2, right? It's not doubling, it's still 44,000. So it starts at 2 and then it's growing at a massive rate. This one is shrinking, right? Half to the t. Every time the t goes up, the value is going to go down because you're multiplying by half, getting smaller and smaller. And then at c, you double every time and you're starting with 44,000. Okay, perfect. And now we will go to number 17. A cylinder has a diameter of 8 inches and a height of 12 inches. What is the volume in cubic inches of the cylinder? So remember, volume of cylinder is equal to the area of the base, which is pi r squared, right, because it's a circle, times the height. They'll give this to you on the test and the reference sheet, but you want to have this already in your mind, right? That will make your life easier. You won't have to look at the reference sheet. You can work faster. And having it in your mind just has you be more familiar with it than looking at it on a piece of paper or on the computer screen. So that's one thing that'd be helpful to memorize and work with a bit before. So diameter of 8 inches, so r equals 8 over 2. So it equals diameter over 2, which equals 8 over 2, which equals 4. And we have height of 12. So V equals 4 squared times pi. I'm going to put parentheses around the 4 just for good practice, times 12. And that's going to get us V equals 16 pi times 12. And remember, a lot of times you don't have to multiply out by 12. You look, or by pi, so you can look at the answer choices, see that pi is in all of them, and don't bother with doing it. And then 16 times 12 gets you 192. So you have 192 pi. You don't have to multiply by 3.14. You don't have to do any estimation. And that is your answer. Okay. So again, we'll be doing videos on this type of question and more in the future. Let's look at 18. The solution to the given system of equations is xy. What is the value of y? Okay, so this is one of their favorite topics, right? I feel like parabolas, linear equations, and systems of equations, you'll see those. They also love circles on the harder level. So you're going to do 6x plus 7y equals 28. And you have this one. What I like to do is I like to do elimination method when they're not super clean and it's like y equals x plus 3 or something, right? So I'm going to multiply this equation by -3 and then add. So we're going to have 6x plus 7y, not 7y equals 28. And then you'll have -6x plus 6y. Why did I multiply by -3, right? Because multiplying by that, 2 goes into 6 by doing that. And now we can get the x's to cancel, right? So I should have mentioned that. Equals -30. And now you're going to add. And you'll get 28 plus -30 equals -2. This cancels, so you get 0 plus y. So y is -2. It's nice and clean. Sometimes you'll have to plug in to solve for the other variable if it's asking for x and you solve for y first. But here it was nice because it was easier to eliminate x first and just solve for y directly. Okay, and I have a video on systems of equations you can look at, not specifically a follow-up to this, but that one will be coming soon too. Again, you can like and subscribe and you'll find them pretty easily. And if you can't find them, you can ask me and I'll find them for you. So in triangle JKL, cosine K equals 24 over 51. And angle J is a right angle. What is the value of cosine L? Okay. So this one will be helpful to draw, right? To see where all the ratios are, where the angles are. So J is the right angle. And then again, you don't have to be Da Vinci when you draw. You just need to make them legible to yourself, right? So you're going to have J here to the right angle. It doesn't really matter where K goes and L goes, but I'm going to put it up here. I usually like to work clockwise when I'm writing my letters, but there's not really a reason for that. What is the value of cosine L? So this is the ratio. So we don't actually know the values, but the ratio is good enough. So we're going to say JK is, before I do anything, I'm going to simplify the ratio if I can. So it's going to become 8/17 because I divided by 3. So I can say that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, right? So JK, so that means that the adjacent side of K is this one here. So it's going to be 8, and the hypotenuse is always the hypotenuse right across from the 90. So it's this one. And now what you can do, what is the value of cosine L? So that's asking for this one. And it'll be over 17. So we're going to do 8 squared plus, let's call that x squared equals 17 squared. 8 squared equals 64 plus x squared, and that equals 289. 17 squared equals 289. Then you subtract by 64. Subtract by 64. And then you get x squared equals 225. And that means x is 15. And that means cosine of L equals 15/17, which could have been 45/51, but you want to simplify. It makes the number smaller, easier to work with, right? 51 squared is a bigger number. You can use your calculator, but if you can do things in your head, that's better, okay? The best way to do it is you do things in your head and you take little notes for yourself to keep track of numbers as you're working and to draw things out. So now we have 20. The given equation defines the function f. For what value of x does f of x reach its minimum? Okay, so minimum is the vertex, right? Min, max, or vertex are the vertices. It's a minimum when a is positive. It's a maximum when a is negative because it'll curve up or down. So just to draw it out for you in a second, right? This is not going to be the actual graph. I'm just sort of drawing out the idea, right? Min here. So how do you find the vertex? You do vertex equals the x value. So I'll put x val. Vertex equals negative b over 2a, which is part of the quadratic equation. So you'll do negative 50 over 2a, which is 4. So you get 50, positive 50 over 8. And then that gets you 25/4. And that's your answer there. Okay, we're just breezing through this, doing great. Again, there'll be videos on this and more things, and there's already some up, but if you have questions on ones, let me know. In the XY plane, line L passes through the point 0, 0. Okay, so it's a line and is parallel to the line represented by y equals 8x plus 2. If line L passes through the point 3D, what is the value of D? Okay, so in this one, we're given the y-intercept, which is 0, and we can find the slope because it's parallel, so it's the same slope. So L's equation is going to be y equals 8x, right? And then it passes through 3D. What's the value of D? You just plug in 3 for x and solve for y. So then you plug in d and 3. So you have 8d equals 8 times 3. D equals 24. Okay. 24 is a great number, divisible by so many things. You know, it's probably one of the reasons why it's how many hours in a day. In the xy plane, a line with equation 2y equals c. For some constant c intersects a parabola at exactly 1 point. If the parabola has equation y equals negative 2x squared plus 9x, what is the value of c? Okay, so the key here is that it intersects at exactly 1 point, and that it's a line with equation 2y equals c, right? So this tells us, let's find what that is, right? That equals y equals c over 2. That means it's horizontal because there's no x value. When there's no x value, that means there's no slope. When there's no slope, it's a flat line going side to side. Okay, and then we're gonna do at exactly 1 point the parabola, right? It's a negative a, so it's going to be facing down. And when it's horizontal like that, the place where it intersects once is at the maximum or minimum. It's going to be like this. Look. And let's say this is the parabola, right? And then the line that's crossing it is going to be like this. I mean, that's a bad line because it's intersecting at more than 1 point, but it's going to be like that, right? Just imagine they're touching. So then fill it in. Okay, so we have y equals, we have to find again the vertex, right? So which is negative b over 2a. You see the SATs repeat themselves. There's a lot of different ways to show the same type of material. So negative b over 2a. Here it's going to be negative 9 over 2 times negative 2. And you're going to get 9 over 4. Okay. And then from there, you're going to plug it back in to find the y value, right? So 9 over 4 is not the prettiest number, but we can do it. Y equals negative 2. Then you plug in 9 over 4 squared plus 9 times 9 over 4 equals 9 squared is 81 over 4 times negative 2 is going to give you negative 81, and they cancel out a bit. So it's going to be negative 81 over 4 squared gets you 16, and then 2/16, right? So you're going to get an 8 there, and then you're going to do plus 81 over 4. So this is half of 8, so that means this is double the value. So that tells us that actually it's going to be 81 over 4. No, sorry, 81 over 8, right? So it's going to be half of this value is left over. And then that is equal to the y value. And then if y equals half of c, right? C equals 2y. Then we do c equals 81 over 8 times 2 equals 81 over 4. Okay. And now we're going to go, and I'm going to show you how you can do this on Desmos, because that could be faster for some people, but I wanted to show you the algebraic way first. So we're going to go and plug in this equation. And then from there, we're going to see where the maximum is. Okay, so we're going to go. Okay, so the equation, right, was negative 2x squared plus 9x. And what you need to understand is where the intersection is. It's 10.125, which is 81/8. And then you double it and get to 20.25, which is 81/4. So that can take care of a lot of the math, but you want to understand the concept graphically first, right? And then we can go back. Okay, so now we're going on to the next section. And we're going to do practice test, same practice test, Bluebook 1, but now it's module 2A, which is the easier module that some people get sorted into. And we'll work through these, and then we'll do module 2B, which is the harder one. So what is the median of the data shown? So median is middle number, right? And then we're going to do what I like to do when the data is already written out for me in order. Instead of counting, is I just eliminate one from this side, 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 and one from this side, and then we're just left with 77, which is nice. We don't have to do the averaging of two numbers, just the number in the middle, and lovely. So now we're going to go to question 2. What value of x is the solution to the given equation? Okay, so here, right, this is classic algebra. You learned it in 7th or 8th grade. X plus 40 equals 95, maybe 9th grade. And then you subtract 40, right? Subtract 40. X equals 55. Okay. Love questions like that. So what is the area of a rectangle with a length of 17 centimeters and a width of 7 centimeters? So remember, area equals length times width. Equals 7 times 17, which even if you don't know the numbers, right, you don't have to do the math because you can look at the choices. It's not going to be this because that's 7 plus 17. This is too small. This is too big. 7 times 17 is 119. All right, again, you use the answer choices to save yourself some time and work. It's not being lazy, it's being smart, right? Which expression is equivalent to 20W minus 4W plus 3W? So the main issue you could have here is if you did 20W minus 4W, which gets you 16W, and then you add 3W. That's the main trip up. But PEMDAS, right, tells us to do, right, it tells us to do parentheses first. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division are the same level, addition or subtraction at last. So we're going to do 20W minus 7W, and that gets us 13W. Okay, and now we've covered some PEMDAS. We can go on to number 5. The number is y is 84 less than the number x. Which equation represents the relationship between x and y? Okay, so less than means you're subtracting, right? So you're going to do the number x, y is, that's an equation, equal sign. So this is where they reversed it, right? Sometimes people say 84 minus x. Luckily, that's not an option here. Less than x, so x minus 84. And that is D. Okay. Now we'll go to 6. The expression 24 over 6x plus 42 is equivalent to 4 over x plus b, where b is a constant and x is greater than 0. What is the value of b? Okay, so for this one, right, you want to set them equal to each other and then work things out. If you can notice a pattern, right, how 24 is 6 times 4 and 6x is 6 times x, that would mean 42 is 6 times b, and that gives us 7. But if we don't notice the pattern, that's okay because we can work it out. 6x plus 42 equals 4 over x plus b. But when you work it out, what you want to do is still save yourself time. You're going to cross multiply and get 24 parentheses x plus b equals 4 parentheses 6x plus 42. Okay. And then before I do the multiplication, I can actually simplify because they're both being multiplied by multiples of 4. So this becomes 1. This becomes 6. So then we get 6x plus 6b equals 6x plus 42. When you subtract 6x, they cancel out, which is what we want. And you get 6b equals 42. B equals 7. And again, you could have gotten that by noticing the pattern, but if you don't get the pattern, you can still do it. So it's not something to freak out about if you don't know it. It's something, it's an extra tool, right? It's not the only tool, but it's an extra tool to make it a little faster and save yourself some time. Out of 300 seeds that were planted, 80% sprouted. How many of these seeds sprouted? So 80% of 300 seeds sprouted, right? So you convert 80% into a decimal, which becomes 0.8, and you multiply that by 300. And you're going to get 240. Okay. Now let's go to number 8. Ty set a goal to walk at least 24 kilometers every day to prepare for a multi-day hike. Okay, it's a good distance. On a certain day, that's about, 15 miles. On a certain day, Ty plans to walk an average speed of 4 kilometers per hour. What is the minimum number of hours Ty must walk on that day to fulfill the daily goal? Okay, so distance equals rate times time again, right? Again, you don't need to write distance equals rate times time. I'm just writing it to remind everyone. But you do want to think about how the distance is 24. At least, right, would be greater than or equal to 4 times time. So then time equals is less than or equal to. No, you know what? See, I also made a mistake in my symbols. It should be 24 is the less than sign, which doesn't matter too much here because the math stays the same, but 4t is greater than or equal to 24. So then we divide 24 by 4. We get t is greater than or equal to 6. And the minimum is 6, right? So 20 and 24 could have worked. I mean, that's a lot of walking, but the minimum is what it's asking for, and that is 6. Perfect. So now we'll go to 9. If 6 plus x equals 9, what is the value of 18 plus 3x? So you can solve this one by doing x equals 9 minus 3, or 9 minus 6 equals 3. And then you would say, you plug that in, right, and do 18 plus, plus 3 times 3. equals 27. But look at this pattern, right? This to this is multiplying by 3. So you just multiply 9 by 3 and get 27. So this could save you, 3 seconds of time, but if you see it, and that helps. And I'm just showing you how the SAT often has these tricks. Sometimes they save you 3 seconds, sometimes they save you 3 minutes, and they all add up, right? The function f is defined by f of x equals x cubed plus 9. What is the value of f of 2? Okay, so this is something that people will get thrown off by. They think, what does it mean f of 2, right? So that just means the 2 takes the place of the x. So we're going to do f of 2 technical difficulties there. F of 2 equals and now mental difficulties, 2 cubed plus 9. 2 cubed is 8 plus 9 equals 17. Okay, I'm loving that. Perfect. And now let's go to 11. The total cost in F of X in dollars to lease a car for 36 months from a particular car dealership is given by F of X equals 36 plus 1,000, where X is the monthly payment in dollars. What is the total cost to lease a car when the monthly payment is $400? Okay, so here you're going to do 36 times 400 plus 1,000. And then 36 times 400 got you 14,400 plus 1,000 gets you 15,400. So again, this one, the math itself isn't too bad. It's just about reading the question carefully and understanding what it's asking for. A lot of the math section is really just a reading test again. So it helps to practice reading skills and understanding how math questions are set up. And then the math itself sometimes is complicated, but sometimes can be pretty straightforward. The function g is defined by gx equals 10x plus 8. What is the value of gx when x equals 8? So when x equals 8, we're going to plug in. So we're going to do 10 times 8 plus 8. It's going to give us 80 plus 8 equals 88, which is D. Okay, perfect, great. Now I'll go to the next one. Okay, so in parallel lines, what is the value of x? So the parallel line actually doesn't play a role here because both angles we're looking at are on the same line. But sometimes parallel lines do help. But x and this one make a straight line, so that means they add up to 180. So it's going to be x plus 133 equals 180. Again, you don't need to write that line. I'm just writing it to explain. And then x equals, you maybe do want to write 180 minus 133. That gets you 47. Okay. It's nice testing of algebra and parallel lines. Okay. Now the next one, let's see what's in store for us. Okay, the graph of 7x plus 2y equals negative 31. And the xy plane has an x-intercept at a 0 and a y-intercept at 0, b, where a and b are constants. What is the value of b over a? Okay. So we'll do this out. We'll do 7a, right? We're going to solve for a because that's the x value. And when the x-intercept is when the y value equals 0, so that's going to be 2 times 0. equals negative 31. So then we're going to get, that goes away. Then we're going to divide by 7. Divide by 7. A equals negative 31 over 7. Now we'll do B over here. So that's when the X value is 0. So that's going to be 7 times 0 plus 2 times B equals negative 31 again. So you get 2B equals negative 31. B equals negative 31 over 2. Again, I wouldn't put that in your calculator to find the answer because look at the answer choices. They're all fractions. So let's work with fractions. B over A is B divided by A. So we're going to do negative 31 over 2 divided by negative 31. I got ahead of myself there. Negative 31 over 7. Okay. And now when you're dividing by fractions, it's keep, change, flip. So this is equal to negative 31 over 2 times 7 over negative 31. The negatives cancel and the 31s cancel. So we're just left with 7 over 2. So again, you plug in, you don't use calculators because they work out with fundamentals, right? So you don't actually have to do the multiplication or division. Things just simplify for you. Now on 15, an object travels at a constant speed of 12 centimeters per second. At this speed, what is the time in seconds that it will take for the object to travel 108 centimeters? Okay, so again, it is distance, rate, and time. Now one of our favorite formulas. The distance here is 108. The rate is 12, and t is what we're looking for. So then t equals 108 over 12, which this one, hopefully if you practice, you should be able to do this one in your head. You get 9. If you're not there yet, that's okay, but it'll save you time. It'll save you calculator time, and it'll make it easier for you. Great, so now let's go to 16. Okay. John paid a total of $165 for a microscope by making a down payment of $37 plus P monthly payments of $16 each. Which of the following equations represents the situation? So 37 is the down payment, so that's the y-intercept, right? 37 we could say is B. 16 is the monthly payments, right? So it's going to be 16 equals M. And P is the X value. So we're going to get 165, which is the total, equals 16P plus 37. If you look at the answer choices, right, it's not A or B. These are the minus signs. This has got the wrong rate, and it is this one, right? This has the right y-intercept, the right rate, and the right total. Okay. You want to really nail down y equals mx plus b and understand all the different ways you can see it, because it's helpful in life and helpful on the test. And it's just very nice and clean, you know. It's one of my favorites. The table shows 3 values of x and the corresponding values of y. There is a linear relationship between x and y. Which of the following equations represents this relationship? So it's linear. So we can go 1 to 0, right? That's a 1 difference. 13 to 8. So it's going to be 13 or to 18, sorry, minus 18. That's a negative 5 difference. So your slope is going to be negative 5. So it's not B, it's not A. And then the y-intercept was 18. So it is D. Okay. Now, honestly, you could have looked at the y-intercept, looked at your answer choices, and eliminated that way first and then found the slope. But Both ways work great. Okay, an object is kicked from a platform. The equation h equals negative 4.9 t squared plus 7t plus 9 represents the situation where h is the height of the object above the ground in meters, t seconds after it is kicked. Which number represents the height in meters from which the object was kicked? Okay. So for this one, right, people who have taken physics, right, you might recognize the negative 4.9 because it's half of 9.8, which is the acceleration of gravity. So we're going to do, just try to picture this, right? We're going to have something like this, right? This downward facing parabola. And you want to think we're starting at 9 because when we plug in 0, 0, we'll get 0, right? Negative 4.9 times 0 squared plus 7 times 0 plus 9 equals height at beginning. So 9 equals h. So that is the height when you kick it, right? So you're kicking it off a ledge or cliff or, a step up from the actual ground. And then we'll go to 18. Which table gives 3 values of x and their corresponding values of h of x for the given function? Okay. So I like to look at the answer choices here, plug in the values to see if it works for the equation. So 1 is an answer as an x, right? So we'll plug that in. 1 squared minus 3 equals negative 2. So it's not this because that's a positive 4. And it's not C because that's a negative 1. So it could be B or D. Then we'll do 2 squared minus 3 equals 1, which is B, right? And it's D. So we have to go to the last one. 3 squared minus 3, 9 minus 3 equals 6. So it is B, right? And again, you just go through the answer choices, eliminate one by one, and you'll get your answer. Now 20, in the linear function f of 0 equals 8 and f of 1 equals 12. Which equation defines f? Okay, so you're going to do f of 0, 8. So when you plug in 0, you should get an 8. So if you plug in 0 here, this one works. When you plug in 0 here, does not work. When you plug in 0 here, plus 12, this equals 12, so this does also not work. And when you plug in 0 here, again, you don't need to write these out, right? This is just for illustrative purposes. If you do these in your head, that would be wonderful. And you get 8. So we have A and D as options. Now let's plug in 1, right? And you can actually see how when you go up 1 from 0 to 1, you go up 4. So you should know it's going to be D just based off slope. But we can plug it in and get it here, right? So when we plug in here, we're going to get 12 times 1 plus 8 equals 20. So it's not going to be that. It'll be D. But what you could do is think about a linear relationship. How when you have the 0 value, that gives us the y-intercept, which would be A or D. And then you find the difference of 1, and the slope is 4, so you would get D. Okay. Now we'll go to 21. We're almost done with the math module 2. I hope you're taking some breaks, maybe. Grab some water. Skipped around to the ones you need to see and maybe gone back to the easier ones just to check on there's more efficient ways to do them. The given equation relates the numbers j, k, and m. Which equation correctly expresses k in terms of j and m? Okay. This is something sometimes you have to do in physics a lot, where you have a complicated equation with many constants and variables, and you have to solve for one in terms of the others. But you can do it here too. So we need to isolate k, right? So first, I'll just rewrite it. And I'm thinking about what I need to do, right? When you're isolating, you're just solving for it. You're doing it by doing opposite of PEMDAS. So first, you subtract by 14J, subtract by 14J. And now you have 5K equals M minus 14J. And then we're going to divide everything by 5 to isolate K fully. So we're going to K equals M minus 14J over 5, because we did the opposite of what was being done to K to isolate K. And that gives us letter A. Okay. And now we'll go to the last one in Math Module 2A. Okay. The side lengths of right triangle RST are given. Triangle RST is similar to triangle UVW, where S corresponds to V and T corresponds to W. What is the value of tan W? Okay, so let's draw this out. RST is a right triangle, right? The long side is TR, so that means S is the longest side. So that means S is the right angle, because it's always across from the longest side when it's a right triangle. So S is there. Then I put R up here. This part doesn't matter so much, but it can be helpful. So RS equals 440. ST equals 384. And RT or TR, right, is 584. So now we'll make another one. Right, they're similar, so they're not necessarily the same sides, but their proportions will be the same. So their tan will be the same. So UVW, RST, so V is going to be the 90-degree angle, because it corresponds to S. And then I'm going to put T and W in the same place. So W is going to go here, and U is going to go up here. Okay, so again, 440, 384. You don't really need to draw out the second one. I'm just doing it to show you, but I would recommend drawing out the first one to picture everything and see how everything is made out. So tan W equals tan T. That's really the important part of drawing it out. You can see it, but on the test itself, I wouldn't recommend drawing it. So then tan T, remember tan is opposite over adjacent, equals opposite is 440 over 384. And then if you divide them both by 8, you'll get 55 over 48. Dividing by 8 might be hard, so sometimes you might divide by 2 first, and then divide by 2 again, and then by 2 again, or maybe divide by 4 first, and then divide by 2. But either way, you'll get to this. Okay, and that is Math 2A of Bluebook Test 1. I hope that's helpful. We're going to go to the last one, 2B, which is a little harder than 2A, but I think it's still manageable, right? And with practice, you can definitely nail it down. So which expression is equivalent to 9x squared plus 7x squared plus 9x? Right, so here, maybe it looks complicated. You think about factoring, but look at your answer choices. There's no factoring involved. And you just want to combine like terms. So 9x squared plus 7x squared, those are like terms. So you're going to get 16x squared plus 9x. You could have factored that, but they don't, so you're not going to either. You'll get D. Remember, to combine like terms, you need to have the same letter with the same exponent attached. And then you just add or subtract the coefficients depending on what they're doing. So if 900,000 beads, 828,000 are silver, what percentage of the beads are silver? So you see how they're both thousands? So I would save time and not even put in those 3 zeros for each of them. You'll see why, because we're doing 828,000. Convert percentage, right? You take part over whole. And these zeros would cancel out. But if you know that already, you wouldn't have to write that out in your calculator. You plug it in and you find that you get 92 over 100, which is 0.92, which is 92%. Okay, and you can do that one in your calculator. If you see the pattern is that they're both divisible by 9, you could have done that too, but it's okay if you don't see that one. 828 divided by 9 is not an easy thing for most people, and the calculator can help there. So if 2 parentheses 3t minus 10 plus t equals 40 plus 4t, what is the value of 3t? So we have t's on both sides. Let's try to combine everything, clean it up. First, we're going to distribute, right? The 2, boom, boom. So we're going to get 6t minus 20 plus t equals 40 plus 4t. We haven't done anything to this side yet. Let's keep going with the left side only just to get 7t minus 20 equals 40 plus 4t. And then we're going to get, we'll subtract 4t from both sides. Subtract 4t, so it goes away. And look what we get here. We get 3t, which is what we're looking for. So we're almost there. We have 3t minus 20 equals 40. Then we add by 20, add by 20. And you get 3t equals 60. And then you could divide by 3, find 20, but you don't need to because the question is asking for 3t. So that is our answer, 60. Okay. Now we'll go to number 4. If 5x plus, or 5 parentheses x plus 4 equals 4 parentheses x plus 4 plus 29, what is the value of x plus 4? Okay, so do you notice? You want to try to see if you notice anything weird going on in the equations. Here, it's interesting that they're both x plus 4. So instead of distributing, I'm just going to do 5 minus 4. And that gets me 1 on the left side. So we're going to get 1 x plus 4 equals 29. So x plus 4, right, equals 29. And that is C. Again, you didn't have to solve for the letter itself. You could just work it out by seeing the pattern and how the math is working here. They normally don't ask randomly why x plus 4 if there's not some sort of reason or some sort of trick you could use with that. Okay. A neighborhood consists of a 2-hectare park and a 35-hectare residential area. The total number of trees in the neighborhood is 3,934. The equation 2x plus 35 equals 3,934 represents the situation. Which of the following is the best interpretation of x in this context? And let's look at the answer choices here. A, the average number of trees per hectare in the park. B, the average number of trees per hectare in the residential area. C, the total number of trees in the park. D, the total number of trees in the residential area. So we can eliminate C because we're told the total number of trees is the 3,934, right? Oh, that's not what I wanted. It's not a check mark. It's going to be a cross through. Okay. And then 2 hectares. So 2 has to do something with the trees, the park, right? So the average number in the residential area doesn't make sense. And the total number of trees in the residential area also doesn't make sense. So it's going to be A. And the thing that's confusing about this is because we want to say that 2 is the number of trees per hectare and X is the hectares. And you're like, well, why does the park have so many fewer trees than the residential area? That doesn't make sense. And we would get that confused and say B. But the 2 is the hectares, and we don't know the average. We can imagine it's much higher than the Y. And then we'll get A, right? So it has to do with the hectares in the park, and it tells us the number of trees per hectare in the park to get us the total. Again, this is similar to the walking and running one we did earlier, where we have 2 rates combining to find one total. Okay. And again, there's a video covering that. For a certain rectangular region, the ratio of its length to its width is 35 to 10. The width of the rectangular region increases by 7 units. How must the length change to maintain this ratio? Okay, so we're going to do a ratio problem. So it's in proportions. We're going to do 35 over 10 equals. So we did length to width. So we want to do length again. So we'll call that X over the width change, which is 7. So we're going to get 10X equals 7 times 35. 10X equals 245. We divide by 10. Divide by 10. X equals 24.5. And that is B. And it must increase, right? Because the 7 is an increase. So this tells us it's not going to be decreasing. And then we know the rate is 24.5. Okay. Because the proportions have to stay the same. All right, now we're on to 7. The given equation relates the numbers P and N, where N is not equal to 0 and P is greater than 9. Which equation correctly expresses N in terms of P? All right. So again, it's like when we did earlier where there was 3 letters and we had to find K in terms of the other 2. So here we're going to do P, we're going to subtract 9 first, right? We're slowly getting N isolated. Okay. And then we're going to multiply by N. So here's the tricky part, right? When we multiply, it gets distributed. So we get Pn minus 9n equals 14. And then you want to factor out the n because they both have it. So it becomes n parentheses p minus 9. Some of you might have not multiplied out like that and just found it like in this step, and that is totally fine and great. So that equals 14. And then we're going to divide by p minus 9. Divide by p minus 9. And then n equals 14 over p minus 9, which is D. Now, common errors you could make, right, is subtracting the 9 from 14 first, then getting 5, or dividing by 14, flipping things. But doing it step by step, you'll slowly get n by itself. And I think the tricky part is that n starts as a denominator. Whenever that happens, it feels a little more daunting. Okay, so now we'll go to 8. The expression 24 over 6x plus 42 is equivalent to 4 over 6x plus b, where b is a constant and x is greater than 0. What is the value of b? So this should look familiar to you because we did it in part 2a, was one of the questions there. And this is the one where I said, well, notice how you're multiplying 4 by 6 to get 24. right? And x by 6 to get 6. So then you're going to say 6b equals 42 and b equals 7, right? And that is A. You could also do it by cross multiplying, and you would then get the part where we do 24 x plus b equals 4 parentheses 6x plus b. And then you can simplify this to 6, simplify this to 1. You don't need to do this. It's just something that I enjoy doing. And then you would get 6x plus 6b equals, oh, see, we all make mistakes here. Equals, this was 42, not b. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to solve it. Equals 6x plus b, or plus 42. And then 6b equals 42. B equals 7. Okay. But again, if you can find the pattern, I'll save you some time. Okay. Okay, this is going to be one we haven't done so far. It's a circle question. Circle A in the xy plane has an equation, x plus 5 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 4. Circle B has the same center as circle A. The radius of circle B is 2 times the radius of circle A. The equation defining circle B in the xy plane is x plus 5 squared plus y minus 5 squared. K equals K, where K is a constant. What is the value of K? Okay, so remember, this is negative H, negative K. So in a circle, just as a quick review, right? You have X minus H. This is the standard form for a circle formula on a graph. Plus Y minus K squared, they're each squared, equals R squared. Okay. And then here we have the same 5 and 5, plus 5 minus 5. Right. And we don't need to worry about the center because they have the same center. We're just going to leave that alone. But I'm going to write it out with it just to show you what happens. So you have x plus 5 squared plus y minus 5 squared. Let's do the original. Equals 4, which is r squared. So that means r, so it's 2 squared, right? R is 2. So we're going to double. And then UR equals 2 times 2. Just got to 4. Okay. And then it's going to be x plus 5 squared. Again, this part you don't need to write out. I'm just sort of showing how it's working. Y minus 5 squared equals 4 squared. And that gets you 16. So that is K. Okay. So the centers you didn't have to worry about. You just thought you had to find the original radius, which is 2. Right? And then double it to 4 and then square 4 to get 16. Okay, and now we're going to go on to 10. A business owner plans to purchase the same model chair for each of the 81 employees. The total budget to spend on these chairs is $14,000, which includes a 7% sales tax. Which of the following is closest to the maximum possible price per chair before sales tax the business owner could pay based on this budget? Okay, so price, right? We're going to do P for it. You can do any letter you want, but you're going to have 81 because there's 81 employees, and then you're going to multiply that by 1.07. Because it's a 7% sales tax, so you're adding 7% on to the original price. So if the original price is 100%, which is 1, you add 7% and make it 1.07 times price equals 14,000. Then you're going to divide by 81 over 1.07. You could find what that is, but I just do that at the end when I'm putting it in the calculator. And this is going to get you 7. Okay. The equal sign should have gone down a bit. And then we do P equals this value, which is going to be 161.53. I didn't do this in my head. I used a calculator. One way I know a calculator will be needed is because look at these numbers, right? They're 5 digits long with no zeros. That means the numbers aren't clean. When they're not clean, you want to use a calculator. And that is B. When they're clean, you could use a calculator, could do it in your head. That's more a judgment call. But here, I would definitely recommend calculator. All right, let's do 11. We're almost halfway through the last section. 8x plus y equals negative 11. 2x squared equals y plus 341. The graphs of the equation in the given systems of equations intersect at the point xy in the xy plane. What is a possible value of x? Okay, so you're going to do, I would solve for y here and then plug it in there. So y equals 2x squared minus 341. And now I'm going to plug in. So then you get 8x plus 2x squared minus 341 equals negative 11. I plugged into the first equation, and now I'm going to add 11 and move everything around to make it into the regular form. 2x squared plus 8x minus 330 equals 0. I can divide out the 2 because everything is an even number, and you get x squared plus 4x minus 165 equals 0. And then I can factor what multiplies to 165 and has a difference of 4. With the bigger number being positive, it's going to be x plus 15. X minus 11 equals 0. And this gives us x equals negative 15, right? And positive 11. So it's going to be A. Now, another option is once you get to this step here, right, you can plug in to Desmos, and I'll show you how that works. We can look at the solutions there, and in the future, you can choose which one you prefer. So let's do that. Let's erase everything. Goodbye, work. And we'll do 2x squared plus 8x minus 330. And we're going to look at the solutions, right? 11, negative 15. And negative 15 was one of the answer choices. So we'll do that one. And now we'll keep going. We'll go to 12. How many solutions does the equation 10, 15x minus 9 equals negative 15 times 6 minus 10x have? Okay, so again, we've had one where it was how many solutions. We talked about they're two straight lines, right? So they could have one solution, infinitely many, or 0. Couldn't have 2, so we can just cross that out. And let's work out this out and see what happens, right? So 10 times 15 gets you 150x minus 90 equals negative 90 plus 150x. Do you see how they're the same values? So that should give us infinitely many, and I'm going to show you why. Because they're the same exact equation. When we start canceling and trying to solve for x, add 90, add 90, you get 150x equals 150x. And when is that true? That's true for all x values, right? So it's just totally fine. It's infinitely many with the same equation, same line. Okay, now we're going to go to the next one. When the quadratic function f is graphed in the xy plane, where y equals f of x, its vertex is negative 3, 6. One of the x-intercepts of the graph is negative 17, 4, comma 0. What is the other x-intercept of the graph? Okay, so you can use these 2 points to try to, with the vertex form, which is, I'll put it up here, y equals a x minus h, which is the x value of the vertex squared, plus k, right? And you can use that. You can use the other point. You can try to find what a is and work it out. But more you want to think about the relationship between the solutions and the vertex, specifically the relationship between the x values, right? So you have this vertex. I don't know anything about what it looks like. Right, I'll just say it's like this, right? And then you have a vertex that goes down. And then in this vertex, right, you have it's symmetrical across the vertex. So this is x and this is x. So they're the same value on both sides. They're equal to each other. So we find the distance between negative 17 and fourths and negative 3. We could then add that distance on to the other direction to see what the other value would be for the x-intercepts. So I'll do that right now, right? So we're going to do negative 17 over 4 minus 3 over 4, or it's 3 over 1, which becomes 12 over 4. And it's negative 3, right? So negative 12 over 4. So you have negative 17 plus 12 over 4. You get negative 5 over 4, right? So it's 5 less than the vertex. So we're going to do 5 more than the vertex to find the other side. So we're going to do negative 3 plus 5 over 4. And this can become 4. This becomes negative 12 plus 5 gets you negative 7 over 4, which is B. Another way you could do it is you could say negative 17 over 4 plus some value divided by 2 gets you an average of negative 3, right? And that would work as well. That's just a different way to write the same form of equation. But this is the way I did it here. I like it a little more. I think it feels more intuitive, but you can do the average method as well. That feels better for you. Okay. The graph of y equals f of x plus 14. Which equation defines function f? So this is graph y, right? And then in graph y, we need to find from it function f. And we're told it's f of x plus 14. The 14 is on the outside, right? If it's on the inside, that moves it horizontally, but if it's on the outside, it's moving up and down. So f of x equals equals y minus 14. So we're going to subtract 14. Do you see how it's a 2 intercept? So b equals 2 originally. So now it's going to get subtracted by 14. It's going to equal negative 12. The slope isn't changing, and we don't even need to find the slope, right? That could be a waste of time because if you look at the answer choices, they're all negative 1/4. So you look at the answer choices and it tells you what you should focus on, right? You don't need to focus on the slopes. And you get this one. Or sorry, I did my froze up for a second. You get this one, negative 1/4 x minus 12. Okay, so now let's go to 15. 64x squared plus bx plus 25 equals 0. In the given equation above, b is a constant. For which of the following values of b will the equation have more than one real solution? Okay, to have more than one real solution, right, we have to think about the discriminant. All right, let's think about, to do that, let's think about the quadratic equation, which is negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac. I don't know why I was whispering that. I guess I feel like the quadratic is very intense or something. So then you are going to put that all over (2a), right? And now with that, you don't actually need to focus on anything besides the discriminant, which is this part here. It needs to be positive to have real solutions. If it's 0, you have one solution. If it's negative, you have no solutions. So b squared minus 4ac has to be greater than 0. Now b here is just b, so that says b. And that's what we're looking for. A equals 64. C equals 25. So we're going to have minus 4 times 64 times 25. 0, you can plug that into our calculator. I'm going to do it by doing 4 times 25 gets me 100. So then I can just add 2 zeros to 64. And I got 6,400 greater than 0. So I have b squared minus 6,400. So b squared is greater than 6,400, right? So which of these 1 squared will get you that, right? 5 squared is going to get you 25. D squared is going to get you 40 squared is going to get you 1,600. Negative 80 squared is going to get you exactly 6,400, which almost feels right, but we have to be greater than. And then you think, well, negative 91 is not greater than 80. But the negative squared cancels out. So you can be really, when you work it out, b is greater than 80 or b is less than negative 80. And that is a. And we don't need to work out what a is. We just know it's bigger than a squared, or 91 squared is going to be bigger than 6,400. Okay, now we're going to go into 16. The graph of 7x plus 2y equals negative 31. And the xy plane has an x-intercept at a0 and a y-intercept at 0b. Where a and b are constants, what is the value of b and a? Okay, so we did this one before. Another repeat, right? So we'll just do it again since it's important to them, it'll be important to us. All right, this was in Math Module 2A. So 7a plus 0, right? Because 2 times 0 is 0, equals negative 31. And then we're going to get 7a equals negative 31. A equals negative 31 over 7. And then we'll do the same thing for b. 0 plus 2b equals negative 31. 2b equals negative 31. B equals negative 31 over 2. And then we're going to do b divided by a. Equals negative 31 over 2 divided by negative 31 over 7, which equals, remember, keep change flip, negative 31 over 2. You change the sign to a multiplication and you flip it, so it becomes 7 over. I put the negative on the negative 31, but that doesn't really matter. Now they cancel, so you get 7 over 2. And what is that one? That is D. Okay. So if you did it before on the last one and you didn't understand it, maybe this time you got it before I had to explain, and that is showing progress, right? That's what we're all about. You know, people worry too much about the score. Schools make it all intense. They want you to get into good schools, which I understand. But if you just learn the material and don't worry about it too much, it'll be okay. You know, there's other parts to life than this test. So you have 4x minus 6y. Okay, equals 10y plus 2. In the given system of equations, t is a constant. The system has no solution. What is the value of t? So no solution, that means parallel. Okay, so I'm going to set them both to have y equals something. So I'm going to 4x, I'll do that one first. So 4x minus 6y equals 10y plus 2. Then I'm going to subtract 10y. And then subtract 10y. Okay, so I have 4x minus 16y equals 2. Then I'm going to subtract 4x and subtract 4x. So I get negative, you know what, this one is not a beautiful one. Looks like a 3 for some reason. Okay, there, with authority, you know. I get negative 16. For some reason, I like to turn it in for some reason. 16y equals 2 minus 4x. And the other one is ty equals 1/2 plus 2x. Right, and the 1/2 and the 2 don't matter because there's no solution. So the relationship is just that they're not going to be the same, which is fine. But the negative 4 and 2, that gives us something. That gives us negative 4x over 2x equals negative 2. So the negative 16 over ty has to also be negative 2 because you want the same relationship to have them have the same slope, which would make them parallel. And you don't need to write out the y's because they don't really matter. They would cancel out. Equals negative 2. So you got negative 16 equals negative 2t. And then you get t equals 8. Okay, great. And that one is, you know, I think you want to isolate the y. You don't want to get rid of the negative 16 because there was a t there, right? So that's going to set up the relationship. You want them to look similar to each other. And if you divided by -16, you would have divided by t, and that would not be very helpful. It would just make it more complicated. In an isosceles right triangle, an isosceles right triangle has a hypotenuse of length 58 inches. What is the perimeter in inches of this triangle? Okay, well, I can eliminate A because I know it's going to be bigger than 58. And A is gone. I can eliminate B because it has to be more than twice 58 because of the rules of the two sides. Any two sides are bigger than one side by itself, and that is not more than twice than 58. But now let's talk about this concept, right? Let's talk about hypotenuses and right triangles. So we have this right triangle. It's not isosceles in the picture, but we'll say it is, right? We will make it nice. Okay. And then we have that this is A58. Let's call this at each X and X. And you want to be able to think about how this is a special right triangle, right? An isosceles right triangle is a 45, 45, 90. Right, so this is the 90. This is 45. And then you get, what you would do there is go 58 times √2 over 2, which gets you 29 √2. So each of those is 29 √2, and you would multiply that by 2 to get both sides together. You get 58 √2. So the perimeter is going to be 58 plus 58 √2, which is C. If you forget that this is a special right triangle, but you remember that each of these have to be the same length, right? Then you can do Pythagorean theorem, doing x² plus x² equals 58². You get 2x² equals 58². All right, that will give you 2x² equals 3364. Again, I did that in the calculator, not in my head. And then you can divide by 2, and you get x² equals 1682. And then you square root, and you can find it, but that is going to take way longer. The important thing is to know 45, 45, 90 is x √2. So to go from hypotenuse to the side lengths, you multiply by √2, divide by 2, and you'll get C. All right, we're in the home stretch here. You've stuck with me through this all. Congrats, you have good stamina, which is helpful in the test. Right, and we'll try this one. For the linear function f, the table shows 3 values of x and the corresponding values of f of x. Function f is defined by f of x equals ax plus b, where a and b are constants. What is the value of a minus b? So a is the slope, right? B equals y-intercept. So to find the slope, I'll do this values and these values, right? So we'll do 0 minus parentheses -64 over the x value, which would be 2 minus 1, because you do y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Which one you choose as y or which one you as y1 or y2 doesn't matter. But once you choose 1 as the y1, the x value for that same value has to be the x1. That's what matters, that you keep them corresponding in corresponding parts. Now give you 64 over 1. So a equals 64. And then to find b, right, to see how we have a 1 is -64. We're going -64, we're going to go down 1. because we're going from 0 up, right? Or you can do, let's not do it that way because that might be confusing. Let's do y equals 64x plus b. You can plug in, you'll get negative 64 equals 64 times 1 plus b. So you get b equals negative 128. And it's asking for a minus b, so it's going to be 64. A minus b, right? 64 minus negative 128. So that'll be 64 plus 128, which gives us 192, which is D. Okay. And that's just being able to read a chart, and the fact that it tells us it's linear helps us. If it hadn't told us it was linear, we might still be able to figure it out because we have multiple points where the values aren't changing, but that just takes a load off our minds. And now we can go to 20. Again, questions like this we'll be doing follow-up questions of eventually. Some of those follow-up questions are already up, I think, for the first 4 questions in Math Module 1. If you just subscribe, you'll keep seeing them in your feed. You can always ask me for more help. Free. Gratis, as they say. Data set A consists of 10 positive integers less than 60. The list shown gives 9 of the integers from data set A. The mean of these 9 integers is 42. If the mean of data set A is an integer that is greater than 42, what is the value of the largest integer from data set A? Okay, so let's find the total. One way you can find the total is by adding them all together. But since they tell us the mean is 42, we can just do 9 times 42. Again, this is the type of math that would be great if you could do in your head, right? 9 times 4 is 36, so it's 360 plus 18, because 9 times 2 is 18, and you get 378. And then, okay, so it tells us it has to have the mean of data set is an integer, so that's greater than 42. So let's check possible sums, right? There's going to be 10 integers, and their mean could be 43. And at 43, the total is 430. And if that happens, right, we'll get the new number we were missing is 52, which makes sense because it has to be less than 60. Okay, so that's possible. Is that the largest? Well, we'll find out. Now let's ratchet it up, right? Let's make it 44 be the mean. We still have only 10 digits. And that gives us 440, which when we subtract 378 from that, that gets us 62. And that's too big, right? And it makes sense. We're going up 10 each time because there was 10 digits. So for the mean to go up 1 with 10 digits, that one number has to go up 10 each time. That's too big. So we cross it off and our answer is 52. Okay. And now we'll go to 21. For groups of 25 or more people, the museum charges 21 per person for the first 25 people and 14 for each additional person. Which function gives the total charge in dollars for a tour group with n people where n equals 25 or more, is greater than or equal to 25. So to do this, right, we're going to do take the per person, right, which is for the original ones, it'll be 21 for the original 25 times 25. Again, if you can do this math in your head, wonderful. If you can't, that's okay too. You get 525. And then if it had always been 14, right, you'll see why this is important. We'll do 14 times 25. And this gets us 350. And then when you subtract, you get 175, right? So If it had always been 14 all along, we would have gone 350, but we're adding 175 on, which is helpful. So then we can say 14N, that's the rate of change, right? The price, plus this original 175. And it wouldn't work if N were like 20 or something, because at 20, it's not working, but it's 25 or greater, and that gives us A. Another option, right, if you feel like, hey, I can't get this equation, it's kind of a weird equation, I don't really see them in anything else. What else can I do, right? You can plug in N. So you could plug in 25 and see which ones it works for, right? So at 25, this one wouldn't work, right? And then this one also wouldn't work, C, because it would be 35N. That wouldn't give you the value you're looking for, right? 25, when we plug that in, we get 525 plus 14. We're looking for 539. And then you do it for each one, right? This one, it would look like it works if you plug in 1, but we're not trying to plug in 1, right? We're trying to plug in, or sorry, 539 is for 26. It should give us 525. So wouldn't work, right? On this one, we would get a different number that wouldn't do it. And then we're just left with A. And if there's more that work, right, you plug in 26 and see what happens, right? And that is what happens there. And then we can go on to the next one. And on the next one, let's see. I just want to check something. Actually, C would work, sorry, if you plug in 25, but it wouldn't work if you plug in 26. That's when it would cancel out. Okay, so now let's go to 22, our last one here. In triangles LMN and RST, angles L and R each have 60-degree measures. Measure 60 degrees. Ln equals 10 and RT equals 30. Which additional piece of information is sufficient to prove the triangle LMN is similar to triangle RST? Okay. So let's draw out LMN just for old time's sake. Well, not really for old time's sake. It will be helpful. LMN. And then you can draw out RST, right? Remember to put the letters in corresponding places. Okay, so MN is 7. Oh, no, that's not 7. That's the answer choice. So Ln is 10 and RT is 30. We have each measure at LR 60. And here also 60. So they told us MN and ST are both 7. That would say they weren't similar because we don't have this ratio of 3 to 1 that we have with LN and RT. We say MN and ST are 7 and 21. That gives us the ratio, right, of 3 to 1. But that's still not enough information just because we know 2 pairs of sides, right? We don't have the angles. We want all the angles to be equal or all the sides to be proportional. So now let's look at C. The measure of angle M and S are 70 and 60 respectively. We did that. Then the angles aren't the same because one is 70 and one is 60 in corresponding places, and that doesn't work. So it should be D. So let's check that one. All right. And that one will be M is 70 and T is 50. Okay. So this is where T is 50. So that would go here. And then M is 70. So then let's see what happens, right? Those aren't the same angles, but Now we have 60 and 50. That's 110. 180 minus 110. That's a 70. Okay, I'm liking that. It's looking like it's the same triangle. And then here, right, if we did that, we would do 180 minus 130, because 70 plus 60 is 130. And look at that, 50. And that makes n 50. So now we have all the angles be the same in both triangles, which means the two triangles are, that's right, similar. Okay, and now we have completed the exam, Math Module 1, 2A, and 2B from Bluebook Test 1. I hope you found these helpful. Again, there's follow-up questions coming out. I'm also going to start doing reading and writing questions. Some of the follow-up questions for each question are already out. There'll be more. If you have questions on any explanation here, if anything's confusing or if anything needs more work, let me know. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'll be doing more content like this every week, and I'm hoping to help you all with your exams. And yeah, just let me know how I can help, and I'll talk to you all soon.